you doing there? I have to make 2 pink alligator wallets. Yeah, I know that's fascinating, isn't it? You know, it's really hard to find pink alligators out in the wild. They're really hard to spot. It obviously comes from the tannery. That way. I can't believe what's going on. Actually, I can. So much ridiculousness. All of this, by the way, to me stinks to high hell. It stinks. It stinks so bad. You notice that, I said this before in the prior video, notice nobody's talking about the COOF anymore? Apparently all it takes is an invasion to stop all talk about the COOF. Interestingly enough, here in the United States, I'll just call it Captain Dementia. He's out on the White House lawn, and he's got his face diaper on, yeah? Out in, I'm not, yeah, out on the grass, out in the wide open. But when he had his State of the Union address, which I watched like 5 minutes of it, it was unbearable. It was like sticking my crotch on a belt sander. It was about that exciting of an experience. Nobody, nobody in there. Not a single person was wearing a face diaper. And afterwards, when he's leaving and he's got all his, the people that agree with him, they're all hugging and nobody's got a... So apparently, no one's talking about the COOF anymore. So it has completely segued instantly from 2 years of COOF insanity to invasion and precursor. So it's COOF version 2.0, and it's segued completely into the prequel for World War III. I've never smelled anything in my life, and by smell I mean proverbially. Never smelled anything stink so high to high heck in my life. This reeks really horribly of World Economic Forum and Reset Agenda. However, from the perspective of the Kremlin, and I'm not taking their side in any way, shape, or form, believe me, from their perspective, this is the perfect time to go after Ukraine. I know they'd wanted ever since the breakup of the Soviet Union. By the way, the guy who's never been wrong, I've known him for decades. His cousin runs this gas distribution thing, and I kind of heard this before, but I didn't know that, like gas prices, here in the United States anyway, I can't speak for another country, are pre-baked in. Something drastic will happen, and then the prices will spike, a few days to 2 weeks later, usually somewhere in between. He's guaranteed me from his buddy that gas is going to spike across the United States by no less, and it already did spike here, and I know it's different prices across the United States. It spiked by about 30 or 40 cents like 2 or 3 days ago. It's going to spike by no less than 50 cents within 2 weeks, if not less than 2 weeks. He's never been wrong. I mean, there's a first time for everything, but he's never been wrong. This is interesting, and there are conflicting reports about whether there's elevated radiation levels or not, but the largest nuclear facility, remember Chernobyl? Let me say it in Russian. Chernobyl. Remember Chernobyl? Yeah, of course you did. The largest nuclear reactor, and there's 6 of them, the top 10 in the world and the largest in Europe. It's in Ukraine. The Russians are dropping munitions. It's Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. It's in southern Ukraine, southeastern Ukraine. So of all the places that the Ukrainians and the Russians decided to fight amongst each other, all reports confirm that the nuclear power plant, and it could only be administration building. I heard that at first from multiple sources, that only the administrative buildings were on fire. 3 were online for supplying power. I think Ukraine gets 60% of their power from this enormous nuclear power plant. Did I mention it's nuclear? Only 3 were online, but it makes no difference whether it's online or not, because the nuclear rods and materials are still in the core reactor. But multiple reports have come back later that munitions were dropped, not just tanks and mortars, on one of the power plants. That's unconfirmed. There are multiple people reporting elevated radiation levels, and there's one report saying that they're not elevated, so that's unknown yet. So everybody, however, that's an expert on this nuclear facility says that if one of them goes, there's 6 of them. You can look it up online. 6 of them, boom, boom, boom. Nuclear cores right next to each other. And if it goes off, it'll be 100 times worse than Chernobyl ever was. Absolutely ridiculous. By the way, I found out a lot of new stuff. People say, why aren't supply lines moving? The 40-mile, there's 3 different supply lines of Russians that are invading Ukraine in the north of Ukraine. There are many reasons for this. One, there's mud issues, since they actually have to stay on there. Number 2, they have no fear of aerial reprisal from Ukraine, and certainly none from NATO or the United States, because that would kick off World War III. Everybody with a half a brain knows this fact, but there are multiple reasons for why this supply line is not moving. By the way, all notions that it's because the Ukrainians are fighting back, so that's not it at all. We did the same thing in Iraq. During shock and awe, the United States did. We tried to decapitate the government. Saddam hid for, I don't know, it was a couple years or something like that. But then we actually sent in supply lines. And we actually paused for logistics and supplies to reach the front before advancing. We paused for like a week or so. Putin confirmed today to the French president. This is, by the way, from Emmanuel Macron, as he had a 90-minute conversation with Putin, that everything is on schedule on his invasion of Ukraine, and he told Macron that that the worst is yet to come, and also, too, there's not a chance in Hades that he's going to stop. Ukraine will fall. Not that I want Ukraine to fall, or I'm hoping for it to fall. I'm not taking, I see what's happening in Ukraine, but Ukraine is going to fall, period. There's just absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts. And this is nothing against the Ukrainians at all. It's just not. And if it sounds that way, then you're not using even half of your brain. No offense, but you're not using your brain on about what I'm about to say. And that is that it's not worth starting, destroying the entire earth and starting World War III. I'm sorry, but it's not. And it's not just Ukraine, it would be any country. Germany, you say, they went after UK. Yeah, I'm sorry, you have to draw a line somewhere, obviously so, but it's not worth starting World War III over it, and that's what would happen if we went after. So they don't fear that, also too in the supply lines. And I've seen video proof of this from the front, that the food supplies that are currently on those convoys are many years out of date, and so they're basically not starving, but essentially starving. And they're waiting for the supply lines to get up front. Also, too, it turns out an enormous amount of these vehicles have been mothballed for countless years, God knows how many. The tires are dry rotted and failing like hell. Also, too, the engines have water in some of the systems. I hear this, and I can't confirm that either, obviously, that some of the Russians are actually sabotaging the vehicles. There are many reports of that. You could take who's ever word on that, but these vehicles have not been maintained properly. They're kind of trashed out. Also, too, Russia is advancing very quickly on the south in Ukraine, very quickly, and they've already taken over Mariupol. But also, too, the reason why the failure of these northern convoys is that these are a mishmash of soldiers from Belarusia, Siberia, and all over that are conscripts and not well trained. The nearly all Russian soldiers that are invading in the south. By the way, I've seen a convoy. I'm not a convoy, but a brigade of battleships and whatnot on the Black Sea. There's plenty of video evidence of this, ready to pour in more. Putin and Russia and the Kremlin are not going to stop. Ukraine, 1,000% is going to fail. And I'm not saying I want them to fail, so don't interpret that the wrong way. They are going to fall. They're going to fall, period. There's no way around this. Also, too, the Kremlin and or Putin, one of the two, not that there's any difference, are drafting up things to have public executions. After they have a list of people that they're trying to find Russia's version of traitors, if you will, in Ukraine. So they're drafting up resolutions to have public executions in Ukraine once Russia has completely overwhelmed Ukraine. This is confirmed. But anyway, Emmanuel Macron's 90-minute phone call with Putin, as he conveyed to the world, is that it's going to get a whole lot more dire so far as the stuff that are happening, the things that are happening in Ukraine. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's a tipping point. It's kind of like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Gas, because people can think about gas prices spiking, which is horrible, but I don't know if you're aware of it or not. I'm sure you are, obviously, so that, trucks actually supply, the food that we all eat, the things that we drink and eat and so on and so forth. When gas spikes up like that, I mean, food prices are already up. People are already at the breaking point. It's going to get drastically worse. Also, too, this is unconfirmed, and we get, and that's a horrific mistake that's been made by the current presidency, that we are getting a significant more amount of crude oil resources from Russia. But now Russia's oil exports, supposedly, I can't confirm this, will only be accepting gold or ruble or Chinese yen, as a tit for tat against the sanctions that the United States and Europe and NATO have put on Russia for, their invasion of Ukraine. Supplies on a lot of primary stuff. I don't know how it is in your grocery stores, but where I am is kind of the middle of the road. And we're not, craziness like California and their radical prices and whatnot. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of shortages on all sorts of stuff. I even went to buy some thread today for my sewing machine. How much of a price increase? Essentially 20% increase. Spools of thread that are normally $9.99, they took a spike, and now they're $12. It's like, well, that's $2 more on a spool of thread. And that's really drastic, a 20% spike increase. I know you're aware of it also. Things are just spiking radically all the hell over. And there will be a breaking point. It's going to get worse, and things are already at the breaking point where, people that live from paycheck to paycheck, and believe it or not, I essentially do myself. I mean, all the money I have in the world, which is not much, a few $1,000s, is going to have to go to the tax man. And, my house and my car are paid for. I'm thankful that my house and my car are paid for. How the hell are people doing it with kids and a mortgage and car payment? Heck, I got a $530 car insurance bill that came in the mail today for my vehicle. And that's every 6 months. All of this stinks so bad. It stinks really, really bad. All of this really reeks. We've gone immediately from the Kuf to prequel to World War III and invasion. And the invasion completely destroyed the Kuf narrative. And everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off, wearing tin face diapers. Not that I'm taking a position on that, do whatever makes you feel better, feel safe, whatever. Not passing any judgment one way or the other, although I'd like to. Of all the things where people could be fighting, the fact that they're tanking and shelling Europe's largest nuclear power plant, which is in Ukraine. It's just the epitome of stupid. It's like, you could smoke that cigarette outside. I think I'm going to step inside the fireworks factory and light my cigarette up. Maybe flick the match somewhere randomly. Why don't you just have a conflict between Russians and Ukrainians right at the power plant, the largest power plant in Europe? It seems like a really smart idea. I don't know about you. It doesn't seem incredibly intelligent. So it's on fire. There's conflicting reports on greatly elevated radiation levels. The one mention of greatly elevated radiation levels is on the ground at the spot, but then another entity said no, so who knows what the truth is on that. We'll find out tomorrow, obviously. So all of this stinks. I hope you, and I was never taught this in school or college, whatnot, same as you, difference between money and assets. I'm not a person with any means at all. But when things get dire, Money is worthless. And people talking about crypto, crypto is a digital fart. It needs electricity to work, it needs a network to work, and it needs the internet to work. It's the most fragile thing in the world, a digital fart. I got a lot of money in my crypto. Well, that's nice, digital fart. You know, when it comes to food, water filtration, power, personal security, your digital fart is not really worth anything. Assets are something totally different. There are a lot of things that are assets, one of them being land. I won't talk about the other things that are assets, especially when it comes to an unstable world. I'm 49 years old. I've never seen the world this unstable before. And I'm not Chicken Little. I'm not saying the sky is falling, but I've never seen it this unstable before. And everything that's going on right now stinks to high heck. It just stinks so bad. I just can't explain how much it stinks. It stinks. It's just rotten. It stinks. Not saying it's bad, which of course it is. It stinks of a pre-planning agenda, which of course, retaking of Ukraine. I've seen that now ever since the fall of the Soviet Union. Anyway, tell me what you think. I read every comment. Shouldn't have had that tall cup of coffee today. It's too much caffeine on me. Thanks. Ridiculous.